Alright, one night in Karazhan. 45 cards. Pretty hyped. Should be a great expansion. Let's take a look at the cards. I'm gonna evaluate this one by one. First one we have here is Violet Illusionist. 3 mana, 4/3. During your turn, your hero is immune. It's a pretty solid stats, I think. That's not bad at all for like 3 mana. You don't really want to play it on turn 3, but it's not too bad, I guess, if you do, if you don't get value out of the ability that much. But obviously where this shines is if you have weapons. And you can use those weapons without taking any damage. So like the new weapon that they had, which was the 5 mana warrior weapon, which you can attack as many times as you want. You can like kind of clear the board, I guess. Like first you equip the weapon and then you play this guy. I don't think this is like spectacular. I don't think this is gonna make a big splash. Probably not gonna get played all that much, but it's like a decent card and yeah, maybe with some weapon decks you can find value from it. I don't think there's much more to say about it though. Next one we have, okay, Arcane Giant. Costs 1 less for each spell that you cast this game. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can put this in like a Yogg deck where you cast a lot of spells, like maybe Yogg Lord or something, or like a Yogg Druid, where you play Raven Idols and all of that stuff, Innervates Wild Growths. It can be like fairly cheap. Maybe Mage, where you cast a lot of spells. A lot of the Yogg decks seem to, that you already stacked up with spells, can potentially get some value out of this. Maybe even like spell heavy Shaman deck, and you get this really cheap, and then you Ancestral Spirit it, and maybe Faceless it too afterwards. I don't think this is like a huge card. I don't think this is gonna make a big impact, but it seems fairly okay for decks that go for the late game strategy and have a lot of spells in them. OTK Warrior, maybe. That's one of the potentials for this for sure. Probably better than the Frost Giant. You can get this a little bit faster, so you could play this and charge it, Faceless it. It's gonna be quite a bit of damage, but I don't think it's gonna be better than the Worgen OTK. But not a bad card. Also not like nothing too exciting, I think. But it should find its place, and I wouldn't be surprised if this card made itself to like maybe Yogg Druid, where people would play it a lot. Arcanosmith, 4 mana, Battlecry, summon a 0/5 minion with Taunt. 3/2, so the stat line is like not too spectacular. This is like, the first thing I thought when I saw this was that maybe you stick this into like a Reno Mage or something that wants to have a little bit of like defense early on, so you can use the 0/5 as a kind of like gain some health or like defensive tool to buy time to do whatever you want to do later on. So might be okay. Is it better than like a Sentient Shieldmaster? Might be a little bit. What can you do with the 0/5 though? Like, you can buff it with some decks, but this is definitely a defensive card. It's not like you put this in a zoo to have a shield bearer. Nothing too special, but it might find a space in some Reno decks. Menagerie Magician, 5 mana, Battlecry, give a random friendly Beast Dragon and a Murloc +2/+2. The stats for it's not that good, but if you have already like at least if you have even one Beast Dragon or Murloc on the board, it's not too bad. Like it's close to like a Houndmaster value, and I don't think there's gonna be many times where you land this on like all 3, so you're not gonna get the +6/+6, but even just getting like a +4/+4 is extremely powerful. I don't think the card is that amazing. Like it's a little bit situational, and like playing beasts and dragons and murlocs might be a little bit too much. But if you play just dragons and beasts, because the murlocs are kind of the weakest ones in general, you might find some uses for this potentially in just like a beast dragon hybrid deck, I think. But yeah, just a tiny bit like weak. I mean, there could be some Beast Dragon Murloc deck that really like gets popular, and then you obviously play this if you have all those 3. If you're playing all 3 like Beast Dragons, Murlocs, yes, you want to play this. But just Beasts and Dragons, maybe, but it's not too spectacular. It's more like really good for Arena, I guess, if you have those already in your deck. And then we have Medivh. 8 mana, 7/7 Battlecry, Atiesh, great stuff of the Guardian. We saw the Atiesh was was a 1/3 weapon, which consumes a charge every time you cast a spell and you summon a random minion of the mana cost that you casted the spells. And this is extremely powerful card. Like you can play it in even maybe even in a hunter where you just play like Call of the Wild, or in mage where you just flame strike and stuff. But there's an obvious weakness for Harrison Jones. And if you play this in a mage or priest deck, if your opponent's running a Harrison, those are like generally Harrison is like a useless card against those classes. So suddenly Harrison gets a lot better. Very high value, but it's very slow. Like 8 mana minion usually needs to have some kind of like immediate effect in order to be powerful. Like even Tyrion has a taunt, so it's kind of like defensive tool. It has to be attacked, and Ragnaros fires immediately. The Light Lord heals immediately. So it's a very slow card. But I'm definitely gonna be playing this a lot. I'm expecting to have a lot of fun with it in spell heavy decks, and just hope to like avoid those Harrisons on it, because the Harrison is just such a blowout. New Dr. Boom, well, not quite. Very slow, a little bit unreliable, but very powerful if you have expensive spells. 3 mana Zoobot, 3 mana 3/3 mech. Give a random friendly beast dragon and Murloc +1/+1. I think this is a lot better than the +2/+2 guy, just because of like 3 mana 3/3 is much more playable on its own than the 5 mana 4/4. If you buff just one guy, it's kind of like average, and if you hit it on two minions, then it's gonna be very powerful. Well, kind of the same thing as with the 5 mana guy. That if you playing the beasts, dragons, and Murlocs, it could potentially be like auto include and very powerful. But the Murlocs are just bad. Like we need more Murlocs, some more useful Murlocs, in order for this to like truly be huge. I don't think it's gonna make a huge impact, and right now, like being a mech is not something that really like gives you much benefit. Next one is the Netherspite Historian. 2 mana, 1/3 battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, discover a dragon. Oh, it's a pretty cool like dragon synergy card. A lot of value. You can discover a 9 mana dragon quite often when you need one, for it to have a lot of like late game power. There's so many 9 mana dragons, so many high impact dragons, but it's a little bit weird because what dragon decks really struggle with is the early game, and the 1/3 for 2 mana, like it's on the weak side. Like, it doesn't really cover the weaknesses of dragon decks, which is the poor early game. So it's kind of like adding more things to what dragon decks are already good at, which is the kind of late game. Sometimes you might get like a faster dragon, like a fairly powerful early game dragon with this, and then it helps you curve out. In decks where you have very limited 2-drops, or you don't have many like 2-drops that you want to put in the deck at all, this is gonna be helpful because it just you don't give up too much power and you still have like an early minion to play. But yeah, you have to be holding a dragon, so only going to the dragon decks. I would imagine like just having a couple of Azure Drakes is not gonna be enough for this. Pretty cool maybe in some like Reno dragon decks. I'm definitely gonna be playing this and I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it, but yeah, like the weakness of, like I already mentioned, the weakness of dragon decks is the early game, and this is not strong enough body to really fight early on. Moat Lurker, 6 mana, 3/3 battlecry, destroy a minion, death roll, resummon it. So it kind of like eats the minion, whatever you use them. You can use it on your own death rattle minions, maybe. This is also a death rattle minion on its own. Kind of a weak one, I suppose, like stat-wise. Only a 3/3. You can like kind of remove one of your opponent's minions with this. If it's not a death rattle, you can like get rid of it. You can maybe play this in Rogue with Shadow Step. You destroy a minion and then you return this to your hand, and obviously the minion will not be resummoned. So maybe in a Rogue deck with something like that, you can use it kind of well, I suppose. 6 mana. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna see too much play. It's a little bit clunky, and it's so easy to kill to like resummon the minions. Trying to like find a good place for this. I'm probably gonna be playing this a little bit in some decks. that are lacking removal is the Purify combo. Yeah, you could Purify combo with this, but Purify is just so bad. But with some like other silence effects, maybe. Like at 10 mana you can eat a Katoon and then Spellbreaker this, for example. So the Katoon will not be coming back. It does remove all like buffs from it. So if you destroy a Katoon, and when it gets resummoned, it's only gonna be a 6/6, and so it's very good on buffed minions in particular. And yeah, sometimes you can use it on your own minions for decent success if you're playing death rolls. Avian Watcher, 5 mana, 3/6 battlecry. If you control secret, gain +1/+1 and taunt. The obvious deck for this, I think, is like a control mage with ice blocks, because then you can fairly reliably have a secret and get this taunted up. Obviously, it sucks if you play without the +1/+1 and taunt. But like, how powerful is this, even if you have a lot of secrets? For 4/7 taunt, it's pretty strong, but you really have to have a lot of secrets to get the value out of this, and it's still only a tiny bit bigger than Fen Creeper. Yeah, Ice Block Mage, control, maybe Reno Mage, like something like that. You don't really want to stick this into a Hunter, I believe. It's not that good in a Hunter. It's not an aggressive card, it's a defensive one. In the Paladin, no, I don't think it accomplishes anything. It's pretty much just Mage. It's almost like a Mage card when you just look at it. Like, there's nothing much more to it. But yeah, I'm gonna be playing this in my Control Mage and see if it works out. But it's not that high impactful in the end, even if you get the extra benefit from the secret. Arcane Anomaly, 1 mana, 2/1. When you cast a spell, give this minion +1 health. I think this is a pretty weak card. Like, having those health boosts is not that impactful. You need to like cast two spells to get it to 2/3. It's still not that strong. Like, yeah, it can in some like spell heavy decks. I suppose you can play this on an early turn, and then if it's not removed immediately, it can get to like decent toughness. But very low impact card, doesn't do much. I don't think I'll be playing this much, if at all. I don't think it's very good. Pantry Spider, 3 mana, 1/3 beast, battlecry, summon a 1/3 spider. So that's a lot of like like sticky stuff for 3 mana. You get 6 toughness total, 2 attack total. If you're playing like Houndmaster, it's fairly reliable that you're gonna have one of these alive for turn 4, which is gonna help you get that effect off. So that's kind of cool. But again, like that's a Hunter deck that you're putting it into, which is not that great, I suppose. This does go decently with some like beast buffing strategies, like for Mark of Usage, also like the same thing. You're very likely to have a beast remaining when you need it the most to activate some beast synergies. So maybe you can put this in a beast druid. But the one attack is like for aggressive strategies, it's pretty bad. You don't really deal much damage with it. All it is just a sticky beast. If you need a beast for something, might find some play in beast synergy decks if you need a sticky beast. Next up, Runic Egg, 1 mana, 0/2, death roll, draw a card. For some deck builders, maybe there will be some use for this, like just having like a thing to buff for some trading, maybe. So resummoning with Nozo is kind of easy. You get some like extra card draw. If you can like somehow force your opponent into killing this, then it's like maybe holds them back a little bit. But I think the card is pretty terrible because you have to think about it. Like if you play it on turn 1, it's probably gonna be okay and it's easy to cycle. But it's a horrible top deck when the game goes a little bit later on. Like if you don't like Defender of Argus, and even if you do, it's very low impact and it's kind of like very slow cycle on the card draw effect. So it's so bad. Like I don't want to see this card ever drawn from the top of the deck. I might be missing something. There might be some of the cool deck building stuff that can benefit from the death roll. You can use this with in like a death roll rogue. Maybe you can play Raptor on it to get some easy card draw from your Raptor. Rogue is probably the number 1 deck for this that I would imagine. You can Cold Blood this to get a good trade with something that has 4 toughness if it gets ignored. It enables you to combo easily. You can like play this into an Eviscerate on your opponent's minion, or you can like at 4 mana you can play this and Assay Agent. So Rogue seems to be the #1 destination for this deck for this card right now, but I don't think it's very good just because of how bad it is to draw on a later turn. The cycle is so slow and the impact is very low. Maybe if there's some relevant buffs like for like Death Rattle Priest or something like, but there aren't that many. Like how do you give this much stuff? And maybe how about Paladin? Maybe in Paladin you can do some stuff with this, because it's likely to live for like Keeper of Uldaman or Blessing of Kings. So if you're playing like some kind of Death Rattle Paladin, maybe all those buffs that you have access to are gonna get some done. Yeah, could be okay in Paladin, I suppose. But again, even in Paladin it's a terrible top deck. Next one is Pompous Thespian, 2 mana, 3/2. I don't think there's much to say about this. There might be like some like bolster synergy if you're playing a really taunt heavy warrior, but even then, like, wouldn't you rather have a sparring partner or something? It's just it's pretty bad. It looks like it's mostly for arena. You would rather have it as a 2/3. If it was 2/3 taunt, it would be a tiny bit better, but now it's just weird. Like, it dies to a lot of stuff and it doesn't do much. I think 2 mana minions need to have some kind of effect that makes them be decent even in late game, even if you don't play it on turn 2. Like Sunfury Protector, for example, is a card that you can play as a minion for 2 mana, but you can also in later game you have other uses for it. Well, you can play this on turn 2, and later you will not have any uses for it. It's kind of weird. Like I think it's bad, and just mostly for arena. I don't know why this card really exists. It's seems almost like a wasted card slot in an adventure with only 45 cards. Next card we have is the Ironforge Portal. Gain 4 armor, summon a random 4-cost minion. This is one of the weaker portal cards, I think. Like 5 mana is a lot to be paying for like 4 armor. What do you do with the 4 armor? There's other ways to gain armor. Summon a random 4-cost minion. Like, I think Bash is just a straight up like way better card. Gain 3 armor and you kill a minion that's like 3 toughness. So it's like let's gain 3 armor, kill a 3-cost minion like fairly often, or use it in some other place. This is 2 more mana. I would not play this. I don't think this is really gonna go into many decks. Maybe if you play like a Reno warrior of some sort, or maybe if more cards get introduced where there's like a reason to be playing a lot of one-offs, and then it might be a decent card. But in constructed play, like, I would not put this in my deck. Fool's Bane, 5 mana, 3/4, unlimited attacks each turn, can't attack heroes. So this gives you like a nice grip on the board, I guess. Like you can control the board fairly well with this. The downside is that you take a lot of damage, but if you like combo it with the guy that like stops you from taking damage on your own turn, there's some synergy there. But that card and this card, like I don't think they're necessarily good enough. Like this might be playable in a like certain meta. And if you have a lot of armor gain, it doesn't matter that much that you're taking the damage. So, might be a good tool for controlling the board, but I think it requires like certain type of meta to really shine. Now, you need to know what's the popular thing on the ladder when you put this in your deck. If there's a lot of things that you can kill with this, I mean, it can be alright. Potentially a good card, depending on the meta. Silverware Golem, if you discard this minion, summon it. So this is like the backbone of the new discard warlocks, potentially. Can be very powerful. If you turn 1, you soulfire something, you get this on the board. It's very good. Also, if you have a nice curve without playing this, like at any point that you slam a Doom card, you kind of get a free 3/3. But I think that at that point on turn 5, the 3/3 is just kind of like, it's okay. But it's not that good. But if like discard warlock overall becomes a strong deck, this is going to be a very good card. But I don't think the discard warlock is necessarily going to be that strong. But yeah, very powerful card if you get it on early turns. You play a Succubus maybe on turn 2 and you pull this out. That's incredible amount of power. But if the Succubus discards something else, you still have this in your hand. It's not that great. Soulfire. And there's a lot of other discard mechanics, but truly for this card to shine, you need to get it out on the early turns, like from turn 1 to 3. After that, it's kind of meh. not that amazing. The power of this card and how good it is depends on how good the discard lock is overall is gonna be. If you're playing discard Warlock, yes, this is in your deck. It's one of the best cards. Next up, Kazham. 5 mana, summon a 1/1 candle, 2/2 broom, and a 3/3 teapot. I would imagine that those cards don't have any abilities like taunts or anything. So they're just like vanillas. I think this is a pretty sweet card. You could maybe play this in arena lock if you don't have if your curve is looking like you need something more at 5 mana. You can maybe play this in a Zoo Warlock instead of like one Forbidden Tentacles. I think Forbidden Tentacles is more flexible, but those also die to a lot of like 1 damage effects like Ravaging Ghoul. So in a Zoo Warlock, maybe this is a tool that allows you to get back on the board after your board has been wiped clean. So you can kind of like recover, regroup. If you already have a big board, I don't think this is necessarily like the best play ever. But it's kind of like a getting back into the game type of thing. A lot of people have compared this to Force of Nature, and Force of Nature doesn't get played at all, so this wouldn't get played at all. But I think that the fact that this is a Warlock card makes it a lot stronger, and I don't think Force of Nature is that good of a comparison. I think this card is way better, and Warlock can use this way better than Druid can use Force of Nature. Might not be strong enough. It might not see play, but I don't think it's a bad card at all. I think it's pretty sweet and a very good, especially on like an empty board. If you have nothing on the board and maybe your opponent doesn't either, just get like a good set of minions that you can use to trade and stuff. So yeah, I think it's pretty sweet. I think it's better than some others might have given it credit, but we'll see. Spirit Claws, 1 mana, 1/3 weapon, has +2 attack, and you have spell damage. This is a Shaman card. Bloodmage Stalnos goes well with it. Could have some Azure Drakes. Spell power Shaman obviously like is the what you do with this. Very obviously. It's not a good card at just being a 1/3, like almost like it's Light's Justice. But if you have a lot of like spell power minions, you could get some like control on the board, I suppose, with this. Trying to think if there's any like good spell power minions between like Bloodmage and the Drake. This might be a tiny bit hard to use. You know, this goes into definitely like like the control shaman, which is very heavy on healing and effects like you play healing waves, for example. So this can be kind of sweet against some aggressive decks. You can even use this without the buff to clear like popping shields from like Argent Squire, for example, or killing off like a what's the fiery bat from a hunter and so on. So against aggro, I think this can be okay for some early control. But in order to be clearing those like 2-drops and a little bit bigger minions, you need to have some spell damage minions with this. And I'm not sure if the card is necessarily good enough that you're gonna like just add spell power minions that you otherwise wouldn't play. But if it's not gonna be a playable card right now, it might be in like a year if there's more reasonable. Let's say there's a good 4 mana spell power minion that you can stick into your deck, which on its own is already very good. I think this card is going to be very powerful. With Blood Mage, with 2 Azure Drakes. Also, there's always a chance that you roll a spell power totem from your hero power, so that would help. But that's a little bit unreliable. But I think this is a good card. It's potentially going to be very good if some new powerful spell power minion gets introduced. Not an aggressive card. I think it's more like a tool to control the board with. With aggro decks, you probably want to be playing minions on early turns instead of this. Although, like if you're going face and you can get a spell power minion to stick, it could be 1 mana, 9 damage. Yeah, that's right. 1 mana, 9 damage. Kinda crazy. We'll see how good it is. But very promising, that's for sure. 1 mana, 9 damage. Holy shit. This can go face. There's also no real like downside. It's actually a really good card now that I think about it more. I think it's way better than I originally thought before like starting with this. Alright, next one, Maelstrom Portal. 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemies, summon a random 1-cost minion. I think this is pretty bad. Shaman already has a lot of board clear. With some spell power you can get it to 2 damage, it can be okay, but that doesn't really clear anything but the Forbidden Tentacles and like some like abusive sergeant maybe. I'm not sure in what deck exactly you would like put this in. Like I don't think you want to play this in an aggressive shaman. You'd rather play some minions to go face with. Summoning a random 1-cost minion is not all that valuable. It's something for Flame Tongue maybe on the following turn. Maybe it's not that bad of a card, but it's also I don't think it's gonna make the cut for most shaman decks. It's a little bit like weak all around, a little bit situational. 1 damage doesn't often finish off minions, and it's kind of like you just do it and it's like a little bit of effect of like a little bit of damage, a little bit of minion, but it's like doesn't quite cut it, I think. So I'm glad that shaman didn't get another card that goes well in aggro deck. Okay, next one, Wicked Witchdoctor, 4 mana, 3/4. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a random basic totem. I think this is a terrible card. Like I wouldn't play this. Like just playing a Chillwing Yeti or something. That's like 4 or 5. In order for this to be better than just something very basic of 4 or 5, I think you gotta get at least 2 totems, and you need to have some kind of use for those totems. It doesn't trade all that well. I don't think this is a very great card in general. Yeah, you only get basic totems, so you can't get like Mana Tide or anything like that from this. Shakarem, 3 months in a row, thanks for the resub, welcome back. Yeah, I think it's a bad card. I'm not gonna play this. But again, like I don't mind. Shaman is already very strong, so Shaman doesn't need anything too powerful. If it would be able to make like Mana Tides and Totem Columns, it would be crazy. But now it's just like a pretty bad one, I think. Even in Totem Synergy decks. Fork. 3 mana, 3/2, Death Rattle. Add a 3/2 weapon to your hand. So you get a fork then, huh? It's not bad. Like I think this is kind of an okay card, but also you have to pay mana to equip the 3/2 weapon, and the Rogue 3 mana slot is so crowded already. I think that's the biggest issue. Like you already have SI agents, you have 1 cleave, maybe Raptors if you're playing Death Roll team, which this kind of like also goes into. I think you would rather play the Raptor. Farseer is one of the like few good heal cards that Rogue really needs healing. So like this is like pretty good, but it's in a really crowded spot at 3 mana. I don't think it's gonna see all that much play. Maybe in a like a Reno Death Rattle Rogue, it's going to be okay because you can only play 1 SI, 1 Farseer, and so on, only 1 Raptor. So I think Death Rattle Reno Rogue is gonna be running this, but the usual rogues, I don't think so. I don't think you wanna play this. Not a bad card, but not as good as some of the other 3 mana rogue cards. Onyx Bishop, 5 mana, 3/4, Battle Cry. Summon a friendly minion that died this game. Okay, so this can potentially be very powerful if you get lucky with this. Or if the meta is low, this is a very strong card. If you can play a slow deck that doesn't have many small minions that you have to play on the early turns, because then the Battle Cry is going to get you something like Injured Blade Master, like it's going to be a 4/7 immediately, or a Death Rattle minion like any Death Rattle really. Like even if you get a Loot Hoarder, it's not too bad, I suppose. It's not great, but it's not too bad. You obviously want to go for something more value. And the times when you summon something really big is going to be good. But the thing is that Priest has a really weak early game, so the early game you have to be playing some minions, and if you play early game minions, you're gonna have those weak minions in there. And the 3/4 stat line is just on its own, it's not that amazing, I think. So Unreliable Resurrection we have not seen getting played much. It hasn't been that great. This is slightly better than Resurrection in my books, because you get a minion too, but it's also a 5 mana 3/4. It's like you pay 3 extra mana to have a 3/4 instead of like not having the minion. Like Resurrection is only the effect. I don't think this is going to be anything mind-blowing, but it could potentially be like fairly good in a slow meta where you can avoid playing cards that are bad or not very strong from the Onyx Bishop. So in a slow meta, yeah, it can be pretty good in a Death Rattle deck especially. But it just doesn't address any of the weaknesses of Priest, I believe. Because if you play this on curve, the minion that's getting summoned from it is not going to be that amazing. We have Menagerie Warden, 6 mana, 5/5. Battlecry, summon a friendly beast, summon a copy of it. Okay, so this guy is actually really good. Like, this is, oh my god, I don't know why Druid gets this and like Priest gets the Bishop. Yeah, I think that this if you're playing a Beast Druid, I think this is an auto include. Like, it's very strong. Like, just Druid of the Claws are beasts, and you can add like Stranglethorn Tigers. Like, Stranglethorn Tiger is the card that like pops into my head immediately when I saw this card. Like, you played the Tiger on turn 5, you play this on turn 6, and then you get another stealthed 5/5 Tiger. And that's pretty amazing, I think. The stat line also, like 6 mana 5/5. It's fairly strong. Like, it's like Shield Maiden stats. I think this is a crazy good card, and it might even like make its way to some like non-beast druid, where you only play like few beasts. Like, maybe you have 2 Druid of the Claws and just throw in like 1 Stranglethorn Tiger. Maybe some kind of like a bit earlier death rattle to not death rattle, but like some kind of beast that would be like decent with it. But yeah, I mean, you could also like maybe you play an aggressive beast druid deck and you just play like some stealths, like not only the tiger but some other stuff, and just like kind of like face druid type of thing. You play a tiger and you have strong early minions. You play a tiger on turn 5. You play this on turn 6. You go face with the tiger. You have 3 5/5s on the board on turn 6. Like, imagine that, 3 5/5s on turn 6. I don't know if it's gonna be like a big thing, because it can still get like Doomsayer Frost Nova, which Druid can struggle with, or it can get Equality Wild Pyromancer, something like that. So maybe it's not gonna be that crazy good, but this is extremely powerful card. This really, really strong card. We'll see how well exactly it's gonna be used and how well it fits into meta, but really strong. Like, Druid is getting some seriously good cards in this set, unlike Priest.